sea levels predicted to rise to catastrophic levels. During this week's gathering of some 2,000 participants at the International Scientific Congress on Climate Change in Copenhagen, Denmark, revisions in anticipated sea level rise were among the concerns expressed by scientists. The latest figure, which accounts for quicker warming oceans and a faster melting Antarctica and Greenland, now anticipates what could be more than a 1-meter rise before the century's end. More than 600 million people could be affected by the submergence of lands, such as the U.S. state of Florida and island nations like the Maldives, with an additional number who would be more vulnerable than ever to natural disasters such as storms and floods.
Runaway explosive gas from a warming Arctic. At the Copenhagen Climate Congress this past week, climate researcher Dr. Philippe Sieyès of the French Laboratory for Climate Sciences and the Environment warned that just a 2 degrees Celsius rise in average world temperature could instigate a carbon time bomb in the vast regions of Arctic permafrost. The sustained warming of the soil could initiate bacterial composting, leading to a cycle of accelerated temperature increase and the possibly explosive, fatal release of billions of tons of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere.
In a recent phone interview with Supreme Master Television, Dr. Isabel Simpson of the University of California, Irvine, USA, shared her views and concern about the current situation of thawing in the Arctic.
You know, a lot of the climate change feedback scenarios involve methane. You know, there's all this methane trapped in the permafrost in the Arctic. And you know, you already get research coming out saying, okay, the lakes are thawing in Siberia and you're getting all this methane released from these thaw lakes. There's so much methane trapped under the permafrost, you know, orders of magnitude more than what's in the atmosphere now. And the concern is, at what point does that methane start being released under melting scenarios?
Global temperatures to rise much higher than were expected. 2,000 scientists and other dignitaries were gathered in Copenhagen, Denmark this week to learn of the latest climate change science at what experts are now calling the End of the World Conference due to the alarming new data. One example included previous predictions of a 2 degrees Celsius rise in the world's temperature, which now appear to be severely underestimated. Conference organizer and University of Copenhagen Oceanography Professor Catherine Richardson stated, "We can forget about the 2 degrees Celsius. We are now facing the situation where we have to avoid a 5 to 6 degrees Celsius rise in temperature."
The IPCC, the UN climate panel, got it right. And it turns out that we're on their worst case trajectory, or the worst case scenario that they defined, or maybe even worse. And the good news is, it turns out that we have an awful lot of tools in our toolbox already that we can use to immediately begin to combat climate change.